My father erased me at his 40th anniversary dinner, in front of everyone who had watched me beg for a place in that family. He lifted his glass and announced Hawaii next week with the entire family. I smiled and asked what time we left. He didn't blink. "You don't know because you are not part of us. Stay behind and take care of the kids." Then I answered back, "Before I tell you the rest, tell me, where are you listening from? So I know I'm not alone, and when you've heard my story, tell me, what would you have done in my place? For most of my life, I was the daughter people remembered only when something needed fixing. My name is Haley Carter. I was 34, a senior cybersecurity auditor, and I lived in a small apartment on the quiet side of Atlanta, the kind of place where the hallway smelled like dryer sheets and somebody was always dragging trash bins over cracked pavement. It was not glamorous, but it was mine. Every bill was paid from my own work. Every chair, every lamp, every framed print on the wall had been chosen by me. The only picture I kept on my bookshelf was of my grandfather, William Carter, standing beside me at my high school graduation. His hand rested on my shoulder like he was proud to claim me, not tolerate me. Claim me. He used to tell me I had a good head and a clean heart after he died. That sentence became the closest thing I had to a blessing. My parents never said things like that. My father, Thomas Carter, built his name in real estate and wore success like armor. Pressed shirts, expensive shoes, a voice that filled every room before anyone else could breathe. My mother, Linda, looked softer from far away. Pearl earrings, floral perfume, perfect thank you notes. But softness was just her wrapping paper. Underneath it, she could slice you open with one sentence and still ask if you wanted dessert. Then there was my younger sister, Madison. Madison was the daughter they displayed. Her childhood photos stayed centered on the mantle. Her mistakes became funny stories. Her bad grades meant she was creative. Her shopping habits meant she had taste. When she married Brandon Hayes, my parents acted like she had married royalty. Brandon called himself a startup founder, drove shiny cars, wore heavy watches, and spoke to waiters like they should thank him for existing. I was useful in quieter ways. I fixed laptops at Thanksgiving. I picked up prescriptions. I watched Madison's kids when their nanny canceled. I smiled through comments about my apartment, my clothes, my single life. I told myself families were complicated. I told myself maybe love just looked different when it came to me. That anniversary dinner was supposed to be different. 40 years of marriage, a private dining room in Atlanta, white tablecloths, lemon polish on the wood, glasses clinking softly under chandeliers. I wore a dark green dress that made my eyes look brighter, and for once, I let myself hope. I brought my parents a silver picture frame with their wedding date engraved on it. My mother barely glanced at it, but I still sat down, still folded my napkin in my lap, still waited for somebody to look at me like I belonged. And then my father stood up. My father tapped a spoon against his champagne glass, and the room obeyed. Every conversation stopped. Every face turned his way. That was the thing about Thomas Carter. He never asked for attention. He expected it. "Linda and I want to thank you all for being here," he said, one hand around my mother's waist. 40 years deserves more than dinner. My mother smiled like she already heard the applause. He lifted his glass. "We are going to Hawaii next week with the entire family." The room exploded. My aunt covered her mouth. My cousin clapped. Madison squealed and wrapped both arms around Brandon's neck. Brandon leaned back, grinning like a man accepting an award he had not earned. My mother dabbed one eye with a napkin because she loved looking touched. I sat there with my fingers around my water glass, feeling something small and dangerous rise in me. Hope. I heard entire family, and against every lesson my life had taught me. I believed it. I pictured warm sand, ocean wind, Madison's kids running ahead of us. I pictured my parents looking at me without disappointment. I hated how badly I wanted it. I opened my calendar. "That sounds wonderful," I said. "What time is the departure I need to move a client review?" The applause died so fast it felt like someone had shut a door. My father lowered his glass. The smile left his face. My mother looked down. Madison stopped touching Brandon's sleeve. Around the table, Forks paused in the air. My father stared at me like I had reached for his wallet. "You don't know because you are not part of us," he said. No stumble, no regret, no softening. I blinked once. He kept going. "You can stay behind and take care of all the kids. Madison and Brandon need a real break. And frankly, Haley, you have the most flexible life here." Brandon laughed under his breath. "Come on, it's perfect. You're single. No husband, no kids, no real obligations. The kids like you, and your apartment is simple enough." Madison gave me that fake, gentle look she used when she wanted to insult me in public. "And Hawaii would be a lot for you anyway. All that socializing." I looked at my mother. She lifted her champagne and took the smallest sip. That hurt more than the words, because silence has a sound when it comes from your mother. It sounds like permission. My fingers tightened around my phone. I thought about the strange bills I had seen weeks earlier, the payments with my grandfather's name buried in them, the trust papers that should not have existed if everything had been lost. I set my phone face down. Then I smiled, just enough to make Brandon stop laughing. "Then don't call me family," I said. "When the truth starts asking for names." "No one moved," Madison whispered. "What does that mean?" I folded my napkin beside my plate. "It means I understand my job now. They thought I meant babysitting, but I knew this was not a mistake. It was a plan." The next morning, my mother showed up at my apartment before 8. She did not knock like a visitor. She knocked like someone collecting rent. When I opened the door, Linda Carter stood there in cream slacks, gold earrings, and perfume so sharp it cut through the smell of my laundry soap. "Your father needs the new security system set up before we leave," she said, dropping a keyring into my hand. "Cameras, router, whatever all those boxes are. You know, computer things. Computer things." That was what 16 years of grinding had become to her. I looked at the keys. "Good morning to you, too." She ignored that and glanced past me into my apartment. Her eyes moved over my used couch, my small kitchen table, my thrifted bookshelf. They landed on the photo of Grandpa William. For a second, something flickered across her face. Then it was gone. "Just don't make this difficult. Haley, Madison is already stressed about leaving the kids with you." I almost laughed. Instead, I closed my fingers around the keys until the metal edges pressed into my palm. "I'll handle it," I said. An hour later, I pulled through the gates of my parents' house, a brick mansion with trimmed hedges and windows that never looked lived in. Inside, the air smelled like lemon polish and cold money. The boxes were stacked in my father's office. I set up the cameras. I connected the router. I updated the home system exactly the way they asked me to. They had given me access to the household account. The cloud storage, the device permissions, everything was legal, everything was ordinary. Until it was not. While linking the security dashboard, I saw a folder tied to old property payments. My name was on one line. Haley Carter. My stomach tightened. I opened only what had my name attached to it. Bills, payments, bank records, trust papers. The first document made my hands go cold. Grandpa William's trust had never disappeared. It had not collapsed. It had not been wiped out. It had not died in some financial crash the way my parents told me when I was 18. It was mine. Or it was supposed to be. For a long minute, I just stared at the screen. I saw tuition I never got. Rent I worked double shifts to pay. Groceries I counted in my cart. Nights I studied until my eyes burned while Madison posted beach pictures from schools she later dropped. Then I found the authorization. A signature sat at the bottom. My signature. Except I had never signed it. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of my father's desk and forced myself to breathe through my nose. There were more records, rounded payments for Madison's house, Brandon's cars, designer bills, and the Hawaii trip. More than $80,000, paid through accounts tied to the trust. Then came the part that turned my hurt into ice. Brandon's company was drowning, almost no real revenue. About $2 million in debt, and my father was preparing to use the last clean asset in my name to secure a new loan. I took copies of only the records tied to me. Then I called Marcus Reed. By nightfall, I sat in his office, watching his face harden as he read. "This is not family drama," he said. His voice was low. "This is fraud." And when I asked what we could do, Marcus looked up. "Let them go to the airport," he said. "We'll meet them before they think they've escaped." Friday morning came bright and humid, the kind of Atlanta morning where the air sticks to your skin before the sun is fully up. At 9 sharp, Brandon's black SUV pulled in front of my building like it was too expensive for the curb. Madison stepped out first in white linen, oversized sunglasses, and sandals that cost more than my monthly groceries used to. Brandon followed, dragging 2 designer kids' bags behind him. The children ran to me. That was the only soft part of the morning. I hugged them hard, breathing in bubblegum shampoo and sunscreen, and reminded myself they had done nothing wrong. Brandon shoved a printed packet against my chest. "Schedule," he said. "Meals, screen time, chores, laundry, cleaning. We expect the apartment to look better when we come back than it does now." Madison looked around my living room and wrinkled her nose. "I packed air fresheners." I smiled. "Enjoy Hawaii." The second their SUV turned the corner, I called Emily and Sarah. They arrived in a quiet sedan, both professional, calm, and already briefed. I gave them the children's medical notes, snacks, emergency contacts, and hotel reservation. I knelt in front of the kids. "Change of plans." I said, "You 3 are getting your own little vacation." Their eyes went wide. "A hotel?" my nephew asked. "With a pool," I said. They cheered so loudly my downstairs neighbor tapped the ceiling. I sent them off safe, cared for, and happy. Not hidden, not used, protected. Then I changed. I took off the soft sweater my family expected and put on the woman they had never bothered to know. White blouse, charcoal blazer, black heels, hair smooth, face calm. Marcus called as I stepped into the parking garage. "The emergency order is signed," he said. "The court froze the transactions tied to your trust. The loan cannot move." I closed my eyes for one breath. "Good," I said. "They're at the airport." By the time I reached the first-class lounge, my family was already unraveling. My father stood at the marble counter, red-faced, one hand gripping his wallet. "Run it again," he snapped. The agent stayed polite. "Sir, the card is declined. That is impossible." Brandon pushed forward, laughing too loudly. "Use mine. His bank does this sometimes." His card declined, too. Then my mother's, then Madison's. The silence that followed was beautiful in the cruelest way. I walked in while they were still staring at the useless cards on the counter. My father saw me first. His face changed before he could stop it. "Haley." His voice cracked just enough. Madison spun around. "Why are you here? Where are my kids?" "Safe," I said. "At a hotel in the city with 2 licensed caregivers. You have the reservation information. You can pick them up any time." Brandon stepped toward me. "You had no right." "I had every right to make sure they were not standing here watching this." He stopped. My father found his anger again. "This is harassment. You followed us to the airport to embarrass us." "No," I said. "I came to answer your question from dinner." His eyes narrowed. I placed the folder Marcus prepared on the counter. The sound was not loud, but every head turned. "You told me I was not part of this family," I said. "So you no longer get to use my name, my signature, or my grandfather's money as if I am," my mother whispered. "Haley." "Lower your voice." I looked at her. "You lowered yours for 16 years. She flinched. Brandon laughed. "But it came out then. This is insane. She's making things up because she's jealous." I turned to him. "Your company has almost no revenue. You owe about $2 million. My father was preparing to secure that debt with property that belongs to me." Madison grabbed Brandon's arm. "Tell her she's lying." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. That silence did more damage than any speech I could have written. My father reached for the folder. But Marcus stepped beside me and put one hand on it. "Mr. Carter," he said. Calm as winter. "The court has temporarily frozen all transactions connected to Miss Carter's trust pending investigation." Thomas looked smaller than I had ever seen him. My mother's lips trembled. "We were trying to help Madison." "No," I said. You were trying to save your image." Madison began crying. Brandon backed away from her like her panic was contagious. And my father, the man who once filled every room, stared at me with naked fear. That was when I said the words none of them believed I had the strength to say. "You told me I was not part of you, so I made sure my money was not part of you either." Behind us, a boarding announcement called Hawaii. None of them moved. The next few weeks did not feel like victory. They felt like waking up after a storm and seeing pieces of your own roof scattered across the street. Marcus filed everything properly. The court reviewed the trust records, the payments, the bills, and the forged authorization. The dangerous loan was stopped before it could touch my name. The remaining assets were protected while investigators sorted through years of transactions. For the first time since I was 18. My future was not being spent by people who called themselves my family. My father was investigated for financial fraud, misuse of trust assets, and falsified paperwork. His real estate friends stopped answering his calls. The men who once slapped his back at charity dinners suddenly had no comment. His name, the thing he had polished for decades, cracked faster than glass on tile. My mother tried to act confused at first, then offended, then sick, then sorry. But her apology always circled back to the same place. We were only trying to help Madison, not me, never me. Madison lost the house she used to pose in front of every fall. She sold designer bags, the white linen sets, the gold bracelets she once waved around my kitchen like proof of her better life. Brandon's company collapsed the moment nobody else's money was holding it upright. The watch disappeared. So did the SUV. So did the loud voice he used when he thought wealth made him taller. I did not celebrate that. I thought I would. I thought I would feel clean joy, sharp and bright. Instead, some nights I sat in my apartment with the lights off, listening to the refrigerator hum, grieving people who were still alive. That is the part nobody tells you. When you expose your own family, even when you are right, even when the evidence is sitting in black and white, something inside you still aches. Not because you want them back, because you finally understand they were never there the way you needed them to be. The court restored control of the remaining trust to me. I paid off my student loans first. I did it sitting at my kitchen table, with my grandfather's picture beside my laptop. When the confirmation screen appeared, I cried so hard I had to press a dish towel over my mouth. Then I bought a small vase of white flowers from the grocery store and placed it next to Grandpa William's frame. Nothing expensive, nothing dramatic, just flowers I chose with money no one else could touch. Later, I started volunteering my skills for cases involving financial abuse inside families. Elderly parents, disabled siblings, adult children trapped by people who knew exactly where to press. I did not become someone cruel. I became someone clear. 6 months after the airport, I booked one ticket to Hawaii, not to chase them, not to prove anything, just to stand in the place they once used to leave me behind. When I finally reached Hawaii, I stood on the balcony alone and listened to the ocean breathe against the shore. For years, my father's words had lived under my skin. "You are not part of us." That sentence used to feel like exile. Now it felt like release. Because if belonging meant being used, erased, and robbed by people who smiled for pictures, then I was done begging for it. Real family does not spend your future to protect their lies. Real love does not ask you to disappear so someone else can shine. If you've ever had to protect your peace from your own family, share your story in the comments. And hit subscribe so you don't miss the next story.